Howdy y'all. As I hope you've seen in the video previously that I released, I have finished the CT, but I did want to kind of recap the last day. So that was day 33, my last day. So I started out with about 15 and a half miles to get to the trailhead where the CT ended. And I was kind of thinking previously that I would camp like a few miles away from the end, spend another night on the trail, and then go into Durango the next day. And so I would just have one night in Durango, and I already had a reservation for that. I had my plane flights for the next day. But I was kind of thinking, it'd be nice to get off the trail and go ahead and go into Durango. If I could kind of maybe find, some relatively cheap place to stay, like stay in a campground or something like that. So I knew that in about 5 miles from when I started, there was a high point, and I probably have cell service there. And so I could kind of research the options. Plan was to kind of decide that. Before I got there, I was getting water, and I did get passed by Brandon and Rick and their friend Ethan, who had joined them just for this last bit of the hike. He was a pretty cool guy because I ended up talking with him later. But anyway, so saw them, they came by, and then I got to the high point. I found like a cheaper place to stay, so just a little over $100 a night. And so I canceled my previous reservation and reserved those. So I would basically decided I'm just going to go ahead and head down and go to Durango a little bit earlier than I was thinking. I was originally planned. So at that point, I knew I needed a ride from the trailhead that day. And I was thinking, those guys may be able to give me a ride because they've been hiking with Snackbox, and Snackbox's wife had been like doing a lot of support for them and was probably going to give them a ride from the trailhead. So suddenly I was like, I need to catch up with those guys and then see if I can get a ride. So I booked it on down the mountain the rest of the way. I did catch them. Actually, not too long. I was able to catch them pretty quickly. They were getting their rain jackets on when they thought it was going to rain or something. So that was cool, and I hiked with them the rest of the way. And talked a fair amount with Ethan. He had a lot of different experiences, done some mountaineering stuff, so we kind of talked about that, and Rainier and other things. So it was really cool. There was a lot more day hikers and mountain bikers and stuff as we got closer to the end of the trail. So yeah, and then we got to the trailhead, and it was like, yay! So I made that other video, but it turned out like as we got there, Snackbox's wife, actually her trail name is Details, and she drove up, and he was coming down the trail apparently, but still had a couple of hours or something to go. So those guys were gonna basically be waiting for that, and there really wasn't even room for me in that car. So I figured I better get a ride. And so this older guy came down with his dog, just been walking his dog on the trail. And so I kind of started chatting him up, and, he was asking us if we did the trail and everything. And then he was like, do you guys need a ride? And I can take one. And I was like, well, actually, those guys have a ride, and I need a ride. So it worked out great. And he kind of was like the perfect hitch into town Durango for the end. Because, as I was saying, he handed me a beer, and it was a Pabst Blue Ribbon, which is kind of classic beer for these kind of, when you finish an event, you get a PBR. And so he handed me that, and he popped one, and then so we were driving down, and he was telling he'd been in Durango for a long time, so he knew all about it, and he had been in the mountains all around. So I guess he's likes to get up there in the mountains, and so we talked about different parts of the trail and that he had been to, and we shared kind of stories and stuff. So it was cool. It was a great ride into Durango. Even it's only about 5 miles or so it wasn't very long. And he knew exactly where I was going to be staying, so it took me right there. And I got all checked in and got a shower, and then I was going to go downtown and get some food And it's funny, I was sitting at the trolley waiting for the trolley to come. And Ethan came in, walking in, and he had said something about he wanted to walk into town. And sure enough, his day was not long enough because they did like 22 miles. Then he did 5 miles into town. So he did like 27 miles. But yeah, so he was like, oh, okay. I said, well, okay, yeah, I'll walk with you to town. And the idea was we were going to go to Carver's, which is a place where they give you a free beer if you finish the Colorado Trail. It's the Colorado Trail Nut Brown Ale or something like that, which is pretty decent beer. Anyway, so we got there, and Rick and Brandon were already there, and then Snackbox and Details showed up too, and then another friend of Snackbox's, I think, who lives in Durango, showed up. So we had kind of a nice group there, getting our beers, and then we had dinner, and so it was kind of a nice closeout. Let's see. Snackbox did try to give me a trail name. He wanted to give me the trail name Bad News because of when Brandon and I had missed the turn and kind of went out. That's apparently what I said. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said to Brandon that's like, oh, I've got some bad news, when we missed the turn. And so I was kind of like, I don't know if I like that. It's like a little negative. So I think you can kind of veto. Brandon's apparently been vetoing trail names. But anyway, and Snackbox, he's been doing a lot of stuff to promote his thing for the anniversary of the trail and using all the vintage gear. So he did like a live thing on Instagram or something. He kind of showed all the people that were there and hanging out at Carver's. So that's cool. And then I'll talk about a little bit today too, actually, here in Durango. So I didn't have time to go to the Visit Welcome Center yesterday, but I went today. And when I went there, the guy that I had mainly talked to when I was up there at Kennebec Pass, and the Taylor Lake, that area that was so beautiful, he said they had been, after they talked to me and they realized I didn't have a trail name, they had been kind of come up with a trail name. And so they came up with Kennebec, which is the name of the pass up there, which is not terrible. I mean, I kind of like the name, but it's also not very personal or anything. It's just kind of this location thing. But it was kind of cool that they were trying to think of a trail name for me and everything. And they were super nice at the center. They were telling you like that you can go and get 10% off at the Durango Diner, and you can go get a free chocolate at Animus Chocolates, which I haven't done that. I got to do that tomorrow. And about the beer at Carver's, and they have a logbook, which is kind of cool. So all the hikers that come through sign the logbook. So I signed, and then I was looking through, and you could see all the people that you knew that had come through. And it turned out that I had thought John, or his trail name is basically Ched. It was short for Cheddarhead or Cheddar, and then Ched. It turns out that there's another guy with Just Joe and a girl that's name is Cheddar. Her trail name is Cheddar. And so when I was at the pass and Brandon and those guys said, oh, hey, Cheddar and Joe came through and they're ahead of you, I was thinking it was John and the Ched, but no, it was Cheddar and Just Joe. So I was confused about who was actually ahead of me and everything. And so in fact, John only came in today, which was the day after I came in. So I managed to stay ahead of him, which I thought for sure he was ahead of me. So especially with that extra 4.6 miles we did. So anyway, it was kind of confusing, but it all worked out. And so John and I did some hanging out today. We actually got dinner tonight, and it was cool. But yeah, so I think that's day 33 and kind of 34, but not on the trail. And Durango's a pretty cool town. I like it. It's a bit of a walk into downtown from here, but it's not too bad. And here is the junction. It says a hotel and a hostel. Oh, and I ran into Mark, or Stonks, who I've talked about a couple times, I think. And here, in fact, I ran into him yesterday, and then I also ran into him this evening. So he's flying out tomorrow too. So, but yeah, anyway, I think it's pretty much the trail. So tomorrow I fly out, and it's late in the afternoon, so I do have some time to hang out, and I go get my chocolate, and I may have lunch with John tomorrow, or not. We kind of left it open. But yeah, it's been quite an adventure, and it's pretty much over now. So thanks for watching and listening, and we'll see what the next adventure is. So bye.